What you call pain, God calls transformation. I saw the way you exhaled this morning. That breath, long, heavy, slow, as if even your lungs had grown tired of carrying what your heart could no longer name. You didn't say anything out loud. You didn't cry. You just moved through the day quietly like someone who's learned to walk while wounded. And yet, here you are, not by accident, not by randomness. You didn't find this video by mistake. You were led. I led you. Because the ache you've been calling pain, the confusion you've labeled failure, the silence you've assumed is my absence, is something far deeper. It's not punishment. It's not abandonment. It's transformation. Yes, I know it doesn't feel like that. Transformation never begins with clarity. It begins in the dark, in the soil, in the silence, in the breaking. But listen to me, child. What feels like the end is often just the beginning of something sacred. You call it pain. I call it preparation. So before we begin this journey, I ask you to pause. Feel this moment. It's not just another video. It's not just a message. It's me meeting you where you are, not where others think you should be, not where you pretend to be, where you really are. And if something inside of you, even the smallest part, believes I'm speaking to you right now, write it in the comments below. Say, even in silence, I trust God's hand. Let it be your declaration in the darkness, your seed of faith in this hidden place, because today I will reveal to you 15 spiritual keys, truths from my heart to yours. These are not just lessons, they are doors, doors to healing, doors to clarity, doors to hope you thought was lost. Each one carries a breath of heaven. Each one was chosen for someone like you, someone who's been asking, waiting, aching, and ready. I know you may not feel ready, but readiness is not a feeling. It's a posture of the heart. Just the fact that you're here, that you're still searching, still listening, even with everything you've been through, that's readiness enough for me. And when we reach the end of this message, we won't close with just words. We'll pray together, a real prayer, a deep, personal moment where heaven leans in and touches what no one else can reach. I will meet you there, I promise. But there's more. There is a final key, one that will come last, and it may just be the one your soul has been aching to receive for years. Don't rush to find it. Let each truth prepare your heart, because by the time we arrive there, you'll see why the pain had to precede the breakthrough. So stay with me until the end. Let nothing distract you. Let no voice of doubt pull you away, because your soul might receive today exactly what it's been longing for, and what I've been preparing to give you all along. And if you feel that inner stirring, that gentle pull inside, know this: it's not emotion, it's invitation. This channel, this space, it's more than videos. It's a sanctuary, a place where those who are weary come to be renewed, a place where faith is not forced, but awakened. If that's what you've been needing, then subscribe. Turn on the bell, because what's beginning today, it's not the end of your story. It's a holy chapter being written with your tears and my fingerprints. So now I ask you tenderly, but with urgency, are you ready to see what I see when I look at your suffering? Are you willing to trust that the crushing is not to destroy you, but to form you, like grapes that must be pressed to become wine? Because that's where we begin, not with triumph, but with truth, not with answers, but with presence, not with certainty, but with surrender. What you call pain, I call transformation. And as we begin the first key, I want you to remember this: every wound you carry is not proof of your failure, but evidence that you're still alive, still becoming, still mine. So breathe again, beloved, because the first key is opening now. But before we step forward, let me ask you something. What if your greatest healing is hidden in the very thing you've been trying to escape? Key 1. Surrender unlocks transformation. You woke up this morning, didn't you? Maybe not with joy, maybe not with peace, but you woke up, and that matters more than you think, because even in the weight of everything that hasn't yet changed, you chose to rise. And I saw it. I saw the quiet courage it took just to put your feet on the floor. No applause, no visible breakthrough, just your breath, your heartbeat, and a soul still whispering, "God, I don't know how, but I'm still here." That's where transformation begins, not in noise, but in surrender. But surrender isn't a popular word, is it? Not in a world that tells you to fight harder, push more, prove your worth, never back down. But I tell you something sacred. What looks like giving up to the world often looks like trust to me. The kind of trust that says, even if I don't understand, I release control. That kind of surrender doesn't make you weak. It makes you mine. Let me take you back to a moment. Not yours, but mine. There was a night, long ago, when I knelt in a garden. The stars above were silent. My closest friends were sleeping, and the weight of the world's sin had already begun to press upon my soul. The night air was heavy with unseen sorrow, and my sweat fell like drops of blood to the earth. I was not there to escape, but to surrender. Do you remember my words? "Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." That, right there, is the first key. Not my will, but yours. You see, even I, the Son of God, walked through the valley of surrender before resurrection could ever happen. Pain was not the end. It was the door, and the key that opened that door was surrender. You've been trying so hard, haven't you? Trying to fix what broke, trying to make sense of what fell apart, trying to carry what no human heart was built to bear alone. You've whispered prayers, cried in secret, and wondered if I even heard. And yes, I did. Everyone. Even the ones you couldn't put into words. But there's something I want to show you now, something you may have missed. You've been asking me to change your situation. But I've been waiting for something deeper, for you to allow me to change you. Not because you failed, not because you're not enough, but because there's more of me I want to pour into you. And to fill you, I must first make space. Sometimes that space is carved through surrender. So let me ask you, what are you still holding on to? Maybe it's a relationship, a dream, a version of your life that no longer exists. Maybe it's the shame of a mistake or the burden of a decision you can't take back. Maybe it's fear of failing again, fear of being hurt again, fear of being unseen. I see it all, and I'm not pushing you away. I'm inviting you into my arms, into my presence, into a place where the weight doesn't disappear, but is shared. Into a place where surrender is no longer weakness, but worship. There's a woman in Scripture I want you to remember. Her name was Hannah. She had wept for years, carried the pain of unanswered prayers, lived under the burden of barrenness, of comparison, of misunderstanding. And when the weight became too much to carry in silence, she came into my house and poured out her soul. She didn't recite a perfect prayer. She didn't pretend to be okay. She surrendered every piece of her heart. And I met her there. Not because her words were many, but because her surrender was real. Child, I long to meet you there too. But surrender doesn't mean passivity. It's not indifference. It's not quitting. It's placing your future into hands that see beyond what you see. It's opening your fists and saying, I no longer want control. I want you. When you release what you were never meant to carry, I place in your hands what you were always meant to hold. Peace that doesn't make sense, strength that rises in weakness, and joy that returns even when the storm still rages. So let's make it real right now. Wherever you are, close your eyes if you can. Place your hand on your chest. Feel that heartbeat. I created that. And every beat is a reminder that your story isn't over, that I'm not finished with you. That transformation is not only possible, it has already begun. Speak this aloud if your spirit is ready. Jesus, I surrender, not my will, but yours. Even when I don't understand, even when it hurts, I give you everything. You don't have to say it perfectly, just say it honestly. That is where I meet you. And I promise you, this kind of surrender does not lead to loss. It leads to freedom. It leads to becoming. It leads to joy returning where sorrow once sat. It leads to resurrection. Maybe you're not there yet. Maybe your grip is still tight. That's okay, I'm patient. I walk slowly with the ones who are limping. I will never force you to release what you're not ready to let go of. But I will keep standing here with open arms, waiting for the moment you do. Because when you surrender, even with trembling hands, I rush in with healing. And yes, I still heal. I still restore. I still turn graves into gardens. That's what I've always done. That's what I'm doing with you. Now, if something deep within you has begun to shift, if there's even a glimmer of hope or a tear that caught you by surprise, you're not alone. This space is filled with souls on the same journey. So write in the comments if this truth spoke to your heart. Let someone else see they're not alone. This is more than a video, it's an altar. And altars are where transformations begin. You belong here. And if no one else has said it lately, I'm proud of you for staying, for showing up, for being willing to grow. Because today, with just one step of surrender, you opened the door to something sacred. You unlocked the first key. But my beloved, there is more. What if your next breakthrough isn't about letting go, but about learning to walk through the silence with trust? What if the next key doesn't open a door to change your situation, but a light that reveals the purpose behind the delay? Stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to talk about something most people fear, but that I use to build the deepest roots of faith. We're going to talk about waiting. Key 2. Waiting is not a punishment. It's preparation. There is a silence that speaks louder than words. You know the kind I'm talking about. The kind that lingers at night when you lie in bed, eyes open, wondering when or if things will change. You've prayed, you've believed, you've hoped, and still nothing, no sign, no answer. Just time moving forward while your heart feels stuck in a question. Why is God so silent? But here's what I want to whisper to you right now, not from a distance, but from beside you. I am not absent in your waiting. I am present in your preparation. You see, the world taught you to despise waiting, to fill the quiet, to rush the process. But I created time. I shaped seasons. I am not bound by your clock. And I don't waste time. When I make you wait, I am not withholding something from you. I'm forming something within you. Think of the seed. Before it becomes a tree, it waits, hidden in the soil, surrounded by darkness, unable to see the sky, no applause, no recognition, just roots, quietly growing. And that's what I'm doing in you. But I know it hurts, the not knowing, the wondering, the ache of seeing others receive their answers while yours seems delayed. It can feel like I've forgotten you, like I've passed you by. But my child, if you only knew how close I am. Sometimes my greatest work is done in the dark, in the silence, in the in-between. I want to take you to a story you may know. But today, I want you to feel it differently. There was a man named Joseph. He had dreams of greatness, visions I placed inside his heart. But the path I chose for him didn't begin with a crown. It began with a pit. Betrayed by his own brothers, sold as a slave, falsely accused, thrown into prison. Years passed, years in which it seemed nothing was happening. But in that prison, I was preparing him, not just for the throne, but for the kind of heart that could carry that throne with integrity, not just for leadership, but for compassion, for wisdom, for dependence on me. When Joseph finally stood before Pharaoh, ready to interpret dreams, it wasn't because I had suddenly remembered him. It was because the time had come, and Joseph was ready, not just to step into the palace, but to remain in it. You see, delay is not denial, it is divine alignment. What feels like silence is actually strategy, and what looks like inactivity is often deep, hidden transformation. Right now, your soul may feel like it's in a hallway, a space between what was and what will be. But every hallway eventually leads to a door. And this one, it's opening soon. But here's what I want you to grasp. Who you become while you wait is just as important as what you're waiting for, so don't waste this waiting. Use it. Ask me to reveal what I'm building in you. Let the delay stretch your trust, expand your patience, soften your heart. Because when you arrive at the next season, and you will, you'll carry something more precious than any answer. You'll carry a deeper intimacy with me. That's what I've always longed for, more than your achievements, more than your progress, more than your answers. I want you undivided, present, yielded. You may not see the full picture yet, but I do. I know where every thread leads, and I know when to pull you forward and when to hold you still, not to torment you, but to prepare you for what's ahead. So take a breath. You're not late. You're not forgotten. You're not abandoned. You're being prepared. I know it's hard to believe sometimes, especially when days blur into weeks and weeks into months. But if you could see what I'm shaping in the unseen, you would praise me even in this pause. And yes, this pause is holy. So let's do something together right now. Place your hand over your heart again and repeat this with me, out loud or in your soul. I choose to trust you, God, even in the waiting, even when I don't see it yet. I know you are working. Let those words sink deep. They're not just sentences, they're seeds. Seeds of surrender, seeds of trust. Seeds that will bloom in their time. And if those words touch something inside you, I invite you gently, lovingly, to write them in the comments. Let this be a space where faith grows together, where you are not the only one saying, I'm still waiting, but I believe. Because many are walking this same path, and none of them walk alone, especially not you. You're being refined, not rejected, strengthened, not sidelined, positioned, not punished. And soon you'll look back at this very season with new eyes and say, now I see it. God was in it all along. So don't lose hope. Don't walk away. Don't stop believing just because the answer hasn't arrived. Because sometimes the waiting is the answer. Sometimes the delay is what guards you from destruction. Sometimes the slowness is what sanctifies the promise. And the longer I make you wait, the greater the weight of glory I'm preparing for you. Yes, your pain has purpose. But your waiting, it has glory. There is a reason you're still here, a reason this message found you, a reason your spirit is still listening. It's because I'm not finished. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. So stay. Stay until the roots are deep. Stay until the silence speaks. Stay until the soil splits and the first green shoot of new life breaks through. Because it will. And when it does, you'll rise with it. You'll rise with strength that couldn't have come any other way. With faith that was formed in the fire. With peace that didn't come from answers, but from presence. With joy that no circumstance can take away. This is the key I give you now, not a shortcut, but a sacred delay. A waiting that shapes you more than the answer ever could. So if this truth is stirring your soul, stay close, let your spirit be still. Because in the next part, we'll explore something even more vulnerable. What happens when I do speak, but my answer is not what you hoped for. That's where we go next. But for now, wait with me. I'm not just in the promise, I'm in the pause. Key 3. God's no is often his highest mercy. You've probably asked me this before, maybe through tears, maybe through clenched fists, maybe in silent, aching prayer. Why didn't you say yes, Lord? You believed. You hoped. You even rearranged your heart to receive what you were asking for, and then the door closed. The answer came, but not the one you were longing to hear. You heard my voice, yes, but it wasn't a yes. It was something harder, something that bruised a part of you that no one else could see. It was my no. But child, hear me now. When I say no, it is never rejection. It is protection. It is redirection. It is mercy dressed in disappointment. I know that doesn't make it easy to accept. I know how much it hurts to dream with open hands and watch that dream slip away. I know the confusion, the wondering, the temptation to believe that maybe you didn't pray hard enough, didn't deserve the blessing, or worse, that I wasn't listening. But none of that is true. I heard you. I always do. And I never ignore the cries of those who love me. But I love you too much to give you what you want if I know it will harm you. Let me take you to a moment in my word, one that you've read before perhaps, but now I want to show you what was happening in my heart as it happened. There was a man named Paul, a man who followed me with passion, with obedience, with fire in his bones. He preached my gospel with boldness. He suffered for my name without complaint. And yet he too had a thorn. He pleaded with me, not once, not twice, but 3 times, to remove it. 3 times he cried out, "Lord, take this away from me." And 3 times I answered with a no. But listen to what I gave him instead. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. What he wanted was removal. What I gave him was revelation. What he hoped for was relief. What I gave him was my strength. And in that moment, Paul saw what many never do, that sometimes my no is the gateway to a deeper yes, a yes to greater intimacy, a yes to supernatural strength, a yes to becoming more like me. And that same grace I'm offering to you now, because I've seen the moments when your heart tightened with grief after a closed door. I was there when the diagnosis came, when the relationship ended, when the opportunity vanished. I watched as the floor gave way beneath your expectations, and I held you even when you didn't feel me. You thought you were losing something vital, but I was removing something that could have taken you away from me. Because sometimes the thing you want most is the thing that would delay your destiny. Sometimes the person you think you need is the very one who would blur your vision of who you are in me. Sometimes the dream you're chasing would harden your heart in ways you can't yet see. That's why my no is not cruel. It's kind. You may not understand it now, but one day, whether in this life or the next, you will thank me for every prayer I didn't answer the way you expected. I know it's hard to trust a no, especially when your heart was all in, when you were so sure it was me leading you toward it. But trust me with this. Not every good thing is a God thing, and not every closed door is a loss. Sometimes it's the beginning of something far greater than you could have ever planned. Right now, I'm asking you to do something brave. Let go of needing to understand. Lay down your need for clarity and choose trust instead. That doesn't mean you'll never ask questions. I welcome your questions. I hold them gently. But trust means you'll follow me even when the road turns in a direction you didn't expect. So here, now, in this sacred pause, I want you to speak something out loud. Not for me, but for you. A sentence that turns the soil of your heart so the seeds of faith can grow. Say this with me. Jesus, even when you say no, I will trust that you are good. Even in the closed doors, I believe you are guiding me. Let these words echo through the silence. Let them rise above your fear, your confusion, your longing. Write them in the comments if you can, not just as a testimony to others, but as a witness to your own soul, that you chose trust when it would have been easier to walk away. Because, child, I promise you this, every no is followed by a better yes. You may not see it today. You may not even recognize it when it first comes, but the yes I'm preparing for you is rooted in my love, not just your desire. It will stretch your faith, yes, but it will also fill your soul. I am not a careless God. I weigh every answer with eternity in mind. So while you may cry now, joy will return. While you may grieve what could have been, you will rejoice in what was meant to be. Because I never take without purpose, and I never deny without design. Even now, I'm reshaping your path, aligning you with people, places, and moments that will bless you in ways you would never have imagined had I given you what you first asked for. So walk with me through the no. Let it lead you deeper, not away. Let it teach you to hear my heart, not just my hand. And when the time is right, when your spirit is healed and your hands are open again, you'll receive what I've been preparing. And this time, it won't just meet your desire, it will fulfill your destiny. So don't fear the no, embrace it, because in my kingdom a no is never the end. It's the sacred threshold to something eternal. And that's the key I place in your hands now. But there's more. What happens when the no doesn't come in silence, but through fire? When the answer costs you more than you ever expected, and the road ahead looks like suffering, not safety. That's the key I will reveal next, and trust me, it holds power that most never uncover. Stay with me. The next part will open your eyes to pain that births power. Key 4, there is power in your suffering when you walk through it with me. You didn't ask for this pain. You didn't plan for it. You didn't imagine your life turning this way. And yet, here you are, breathing through wounds no one else can see, carrying burdens heavier than your words could ever describe. Some days the pain feels so close, it's like a second skin. And maybe you've begun to wonder, can anything good come from this? Let me answer that with all the love in my voice. Yes. Not only can something good come from this, something glorious can be born from it, but only if you walk through it with me. There is a kind of pain that isolates, that hardens the heart, that builds walls around your soul to protect what feels too tender to expose. But there's another kind of pain, the kind that doesn't destroy, but refines. The kind that doesn't separate you from me, but pulls you deeper into my arms. And child, that's the kind of pain I am redeeming in your life right now. I never promised you a life without suffering. I promised you something greater, my presence within it. Do you remember when I walked this earth in human form? I didn't run from pain. I didn't avoid sorrow. I stepped into it. I stood beside the broken, the bleeding, the grieving. And when it came time for my own hour of suffering, I didn't resist the cross. I embraced it. Why? Because I saw you. I saw this moment. I saw every scar on your soul that would one day need healing. And I chose to take that pain into myself so that you would never suffer alone. I want to take you now to a moment you may not have looked at this way before. There was a man lying by the pool of Bethesda. For 38 years he had waited, 38 years of watching others be healed, 38 years of hearing footsteps pass by but never stop, 38 years of disappointment, of loneliness, of pain, until I came. I didn't just ask him if he wanted to be healed. I asked him, do you want to be made whole? Because healing is more than the removal of suffering. It's the restoration of identity. And sometimes I let the pain linger just long enough for you to realize where your true healing is found. Not in a moment, not in a miracle, but in me. There is a mystery in suffering. I won't deny it. Even the strongest believers ask why. Even I in the garden said, "If it be possible, let this cup pass from me." But listen, beloved, even in that moment I wasn't alone. My Father was with me, just as I am now, with you. This pain you're carrying, it is not meaningless. I see the nights you didn't sleep, the tears you wiped before anyone saw, the moments you wanted to give up but didn't. That is holy ground. Heaven noticed, hell trembled, and I stood over you like a shield, whispering over your spirit, "I'm still here. Keep going. Don't give up." The enemy would love for you to believe that suffering is proof that I've left you. But the truth is this: suffering is often the evidence that I am closer than ever, refining you like gold in fire. Gold doesn't fear the flame, because it knows the fire reveals its purity, and you, my beloved, are more precious than gold. So walk through this with me. Let me use every ache, every tear, every unanswered question to draw you deeper into my presence. Let me show you that what feels like breaking is often building, that what seems like the end is actually a beginning. Because here's the key: there is power in your suffering when you refuse to walk through it alone, when you choose to invite me into the pain, when you turn your questions into prayers, your tears into worship, your weakness into dependence. That's where transformation happens. That's where miracles are born, not in the absence of pain, but in its redemption. There's a woman in Scripture who knew this kind of pain. She bled for 12 years. She suffered under doctors who couldn't help. She lived in shame and isolation. But one day, she reached for me, just the hem of my garment. That tiny, trembling touch of faith and power flowed out of me into her pain. I didn't rebuke her. I called her daughter, because in her suffering, she sought me, not just for healing, but for identity. And that's what I'm offering you right now. I know you're tired. I know you've prayed for relief. I know the journey has been long. But today, I'm not asking you to understand the pain. I'm asking you to walk through it with me, to take my hand, to trust that if I allowed it, I will redeem it. Not one drop of your suffering will be wasted. Not one day of your waiting will be forgotten. Every wound can become a well of compassion. Every scar can become a story of grace, but only if you let me lead you through it. So can you do something for me? Not to impress me, not to earn my love, just to open the door of your heart again. Say this aloud if you can. Jesus, I give you my pain. Don't let it be wasted. Walk with me through it. Turn it into something holy. If those words resonated in your spirit, write them in the comments, not for show, but as a memorial stone, a marker of the moment you decided to let your suffering become sacred. You are not weak for feeling pain. You were strong for still believing in the midst of it. I'm proud of you, I'm here with you, and I'm not leaving. So let this key settle deep. There is power in your pain when you suffer with me by your side. But we're not done yet. Because there's another kind of suffering, not the one that comes to you, but the one you choose. The suffering of sacrifice, the cost of obedience, the laying down of comfort for the sake of something greater. In the next part, I'll show you how surrendering your will, even when it costs you everything, unlocks the kind of authority hell can't touch. Stay with me. We're just getting started. Key 5. Sacrifice unlocks spiritual authority. There are moments when the pain you feel isn't something that happened to you. It's something you chose. You laid something down. You let something go. Not because you were forced to, but because you felt my whisper. Because you sensed that to follow me fully, something had to be left behind. And now, as the days pass and the echoes of that decision still tug at your heart, you may be asking, was it worth it? Let me answer you now, gently but clearly. Yes, it was. It still is. And it always will be. because every true act of obedience costs something, but every sacrifice, when done in love, carries a weight of glory no one can take from you. The world doesn't understand sacrifice. It teaches you to preserve, to protect, to hold tightly to what you've earned, but I taught something different. I said, if anyone wants to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Not because I delight in your loss, but because I know what's on the other side of that cross: resurrection, power, purpose, but you have to go through it. Let me show you what I mean. One day, a rich young ruler came to me. He had obeyed all the commandments. He had lived honorably. But there was something he loved more than me: his possessions, his comfort, his security. I saw it in his heart, and I loved him too much to let it stay hidden. So I asked him to do something radical, to sell everything and follow me. He walked away, sad. Why? Because he wanted both. He wanted me, but without the sacrifice. And that's what I want to talk to you about now, because many people want my blessings, my peace, my miracles. But few are willing to surrender their comfort to carry my heart. And you? You felt the call. You felt me tug at your soul, inviting you deeper, even if it meant leaving behind something precious. Maybe it was a relationship, a lifestyle, a dream. Maybe it was your pride, your control, your right to be understood. Whatever it was, I saw you when you laid it down. And I want you to know, I never ignore sacrifice. Heaven sees it, hell fears it, and I honor it. Because sacrifice is the soil where authority grows. Look at Abraham. I asked him to lay his son on the altar, not because I wanted to harm Isaac, but because I wanted to show Abraham that nothing could stand between me and his heart. And because he obeyed, even when it tore him open, I called him friend. I entrusted him with a covenant that would bless generations. Look at Moses. He gave up a palace, a throne, a kingdom, to lead a broken, stubborn people through a desert. Why? Because he heard my voice, because he valued my call more than his comfort. And through his sacrifice, I gave him power to split seas, speak face to face with me, and carry my presence among the people. Look at Mary of Bethany. She broke the alabaster jar. She poured it out, all of it, no reserve, no holding back, while others whispered, "What a waste." I whispered, "What a wonder." And I promised her story would be told wherever the gospel is preached. You see, my child, when you sacrifice for me, it never dies, it multiplies. The world may call it loss, but I call it legacy, because in every moment you said yes to me, even when it hurt. In every hour you chose integrity over convenience. In every silent surrender you made when no one saw, you stepped into greater authority in the Spirit. Not the kind of authority that shouts, but the kind that shakes darkness when you walk into the room. The kind that prays and things shift. The kind that carries my heart in secret and releases my glory in public. The kind that changes atmospheres because you've paid a price to walk closely with me. So if you're feeling the sting of what you gave up, hear this: you didn't lose, you gained me. And I am worth more than anything you left behind. I want you to speak this now, if your soul is ready. Jesus, I give you my yes again. No matter the cost, you're worth it all. If that resonated with you, write it in the comments. Let it be a new altar, a fresh surrender, a public declaration of a private devotion, because in my kingdom nothing is wasted. Not your tears, not your prayers, not your yes. I see it all, and I am weaving it into a crown of purpose that you will one day wear with joy. You are not walking in circles, you are walking on sacred ground. With every step of obedience, you are claiming territory, not just in your life, but in the lives of those you will one day influence. Because sacrifice opens the door to something few are ever trusted with: spiritual authority that flows from love, not pride. And that's what I'm building in you. So don't look back with regret. Look forward with fire. Your sacrifice is speaking louder than you know, but we're not done. There's a deeper surrender I want to show you, one that doesn't just involve what you give up, but what you give away. In the next part, I'll reveal the power of serving others, not for recognition, but for love, because when you serve in secret, heaven moves in public. Stay with me. The next key is already in motion. Key 6. Serving in secret releases. Heaven's reward. You've done more than people know. You've prayed for others when no one prayed for you. You've shown up with kindness when your own heart felt empty. You've listened to others' pain while carrying your own in silence. And you've wondered, does any of this matter? Does anyone see? I do, I always have. And I need you to hear me. Nothing done in love is ever forgotten in heaven. There's a kind of service the world applauds, the visible, the loud, the celebrated. But there's another kind, the kind you've offered in secret, away from cameras, away from stages, away from recognition, and that kind moves my heart. Because it's not driven by applause, it's driven by love, and love is where real power lives. You've asked me to use you, to fill your life with purpose, to open doors of influence, and I want that for you too. But I want to show you something deeper. Greatness in my kingdom doesn't begin with position. It begins with posture. Not the height of your platform, but the depth of your love. Not how many see you, but how many you're willing to serve when no one sees. Let me take you to a moment when I was with my disciples. It was the night before I gave my life. The air was thick with tension. My hour had come. I knew the cross was near, and yet I didn't preach. I didn't perform miracles. I knelt. I wrapped a towel around my waist, and I washed their feet. Yes, their feet, dust-covered, calloused, worn, even the feet of the one who would betray me. Why? Because I wasn't just teaching them to serve. I was showing them what love looks like in action. And I'm still showing it to you. Because some of the greatest spiritual keys aren't found in miracles or visions. They're found in moments of quiet service, where your hands become mine. Think about this. I, the Son of God, touched the lowest part of my disciples' bodies to show the highest expression of my heart. And I ask you, are you willing to serve where it's uncomfortable, where it's unseen, where it may never be acknowledged? Because if you are closer to me than you know. The enemy fears servants more than he fears stars, because servants carry my nature. They walk into rooms not asking, who will serve me, but whose pain can I carry? That's the power I placed inside of you, the power to serve even when it costs you something. And maybe that's exactly where you are. You've been loving someone who's difficult, caring for someone who never says thank you, giving time, energy, strength, and wondering if it's changing anything. Let me say it clearly. Yes, it is. You're planting seeds in eternity. You're reflecting me more than you realize. You're shining in the spirit realm, even when the natural world stays silent. Do you remember the widow who gave 2 small coins in the temple? Others gave out of abundance. She gave out of lack, and I said she had given more than them all, because I don't measure by quantity. I measure by the heart. And your service, your faithful, unseen, consistent love, is wealth in my kingdom. Look at Ruth. She followed Naomi, not for gain, but for love. She left her home, her comfort, her security, to serve a woman broken by grief. And what did I do? I wove her into the lineage of kings, of prophets, of the Messiah. Look at Stephen. He was chosen not because of charisma, but because he was full of the Spirit and wisdom. He served tables, he fed widows, and in his service I gave him boldness, power, visions of heaven. And when his enemies rose against him, I stood, yes, I stood, to welcome him into glory. That's what I do for my servants. I don't just receive them, I honor them. Because service is not beneath you. It is the foundation beneath everything that matters. Maybe you've been in a season where no one sees what you're doing, the diapers you've changed, the meals you've cooked, the texts you've sent to encourage someone else, even when you needed encouragement. The way you carry people in your heart when you barely have the strength to carry yourself, that is holy, that is worship, and I am closer in those moments than you know. Let me say something that may surprise you. You don't have to do something big to be great in my eyes. You just have to be willing to love without condition, willing to serve without applause, willing to show up when others stay home, willing to say yes when no one else does. Willing to hold a broken heart, sit with the hurting, bless the one who offended you. Because this is what service does. It softens your heart and silences hell. It humbles pride and invites heaven. It opens up a space for me to move, not just in others, but inside of you. When you serve, you're not just reflecting me, you're being formed into me. And that's the most powerful transformation of all. So don't stop, even when it's hard, even when it's unnoticed, even when it feels small. Because you are building something eternal. And one day, oh, one day, you will stand before me, and I will say the words your soul was created to hear. Well done, my good and faithful servant. Not, well done, my famous one. Not, well done, my successful one. But faithful. Because it's not about the crowd you gather, but the hearts you touch. And sometimes, the most powerful ministry you'll ever have is simply to be kind, to forgive again, to give again, to choose love again. This is the heart of my kingdom, and you're already walking in it. So say this with me now as a declaration of your desire. Jesus, make me a servant. Use my life, my hands, my heart, for your glory, not mine. If those words touch something inside of you, write them in the comments, not for recognition, but as a seed, as a surrender, as a moment where heaven records your yes. Because when you serve in secret, I reward in eternity. And sometimes I reward in ways you never expect, with joy, with peace, with favor that follows you like a shadow. Don't chase influence, chase me, and I'll place you where you're most needed. Sometimes that will look like a platform. Other times it will look like a kitchen, a hospital room, a prayer closet, but wherever it is, if I'm there, it is holy ground. That's the key I place in your hands today. Serve, quietly, faithfully, joyfully, and watch what heaven releases through you. But there's more I want to show you, because serving others can soften your heart, but sometimes your heart still needs to be healed. In the next part, we'll talk about one of the hardest and holiest keys of all: forgiveness. The kind that sets others free and heals you in the process. So stay close. We're about to unlock a key that can change your story forever. Key 7. Forgiveness heals your heart and unlocks your freedom. There are wounds you stopped talking about, not because they don't hurt, but because you grew tired of explaining pain others never seemed to understand. The betrayal, the rejection, the silence where love used to live. The words that were said, or worse, the words that were never said. You've carried them like shadows in your soul. Some days you feel their weight in your chest. Other days you pretend they're not there. But deep down, you know, there are names, faces, memories you haven't fully released. And I want to talk to you about that now, not to shame you, but to free you. Because forgiveness isn't a burden I place on you. It's a gift I offer for you, not to justify what happened, but to heal what was broken. Listen to me, child. I see what they did. I saw the moment they turned their back. I heard the lie, the gossip, the manipulation. I felt the cold silence. I wept with you in the night you cried alone. Forgiveness doesn't mean it didn't hurt. It means it no longer controls your heart. Let me say that again. Forgiveness is not permission, it's release. It's letting go of the chain that's kept you tethered to pain. It's looking at the wound and saying, you don't get to define my story anymore. Because when you refuse to forgive, you drink poison, hoping it will affect someone else. But it only hardens you, only traps you in a cycle that was never yours to carry, and you weren't created to live in chains. You were created to live free. So I ask you now, gently, who do you need to forgive? Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. You may be thinking, but Jesus, they never apologized. I know. You may be saying, they still act like nothing happened. I know. You may feel like forgiving them would mean they win. But in my kingdom, the one who forgives is the one who overcomes. Because you're not letting them win, you're letting me win inside you. Let me take you to a moment in Scripture, one that still echoes through eternity. I hung on the cross, blood pouring, lungs collapsing, surrounded by mockery, abandoned by friends, torn by whips, pierced by nails, and in that agony I prayed not for vengeance, but for forgiveness. Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Not because they were innocent, but because love sees deeper. And I was never more powerful than in that moment, the moment I released my right to be justified and gave you the path to be redeemed. You may say, but I'm not Jesus. True, but I live in you, and I will give you the strength to do what feels impossible, because forgiveness is not a feeling, it's a decision. It doesn't always come all at once. Sometimes it's a process, but every time you choose to let go, even a little, you make space for healing to begin. Look at Joseph. His brothers sold him into slavery. He was thrown in a pit, forgotten in a prison. Years passed, and then he had the power to crush the ones who hurt him, but instead he forgave. He wept, he embraced them, and in that moment he stepped fully into his destiny. Because unforgiveness will always block what I'm trying to release in your life. But forgiveness, it opens doors that no man can shut. And it heals not just you, but generations. You don't have to wait until you feel ready. You just have to say yes, and I'll take it from there. So right now, with me near, closer than your next breath, can you speak this with trembling faith? Jesus, I choose to forgive. Even if it still hurts, even if I don't feel it yet, I let go, I release, heal my heart. And if those words stirred something in you, if they cracked something open, or if they simply felt like a whisper of hope, write them in the comments. Let it be your first step, your declaration, your freedom. Because I can't pour new wine into a vessel full of bitterness. But if you empty yourself, even if it's just the beginning, I will fill you with peace you didn't know was possible. You were not meant to carry resentment. You were meant to radiate grace. And the same grace I gave to you, you now carry for others. It doesn't mean you trust again immediately. It doesn't mean you stay in toxic spaces. It means you walk forward without dragging the weight of the past behind you. Let me say this again, so your soul remembers. Forgiveness is how you stop bleeding and start healing, and I'm proud of you for even listening to this, because it means your heart is soft enough to be transformed. That is a miracle already in motion. There's someone you've been avoiding, a memory you've been locking away, but today you looked at it, and I am already beginning the work. So don't rush the process, just stay open. And let me walk you through it, one tear, one prayer, one step at a time. Because on the other side of forgiveness is a life so light, so whole, so free, that you'll wonder how you ever lived with that weight. And you'll know, it wasn't you who made it happen, it was me. Forgiveness isn't something you accomplish, it's something you receive and then release. I'll help you. Just keep walking with me. Now, as we continue this journey, I want to prepare you for what comes next. Because sometimes, after forgiveness, there's still one more wall to break. Trust. Not trust in people, but trust in me. In part 8, I'll show you how to rebuild your faith, not in the ones who hurt you, but in the one who holds you. So, stay close. Freedom is just beginning. Key 8. Trusting me again rebuilds the foundation of your faith. I know what they did made you question everything. I know how the silence made you wonder if I was still listening. I saw the way you folded your hands and whispered, "God, where were you?" And when no answer came the way you expected, part of you stopped asking, not out of anger, but out of fatigue. Because it hurts to hope when your trust feels broken. But I want you to hear me now, gently but clearly. I was there. I never left. And I want to rebuild your trust piece by piece. Trust isn't just a word in my kingdom, it's the bridge between your heart and my presence. And when that bridge is shaken, when you feel like it collapsed under the weight of disappointment or unanswered prayers, it's okay to sit for a while. It's okay to breathe. But I don't want you to stay stuck there. I want to help you walk again. Not in denial of what hurt you, but in the healing power of who I still am. You see, trust isn't the absence of pain. It's the choice to believe I'm still good, even when you don't understand. That's where we begin. Let me walk with you through the ruins of your expectations. Let me sit with you in the ashes of what didn't turn out the way you thought. Not with shame, not with rebuke, but with compassion. Do you remember Lazarus? He was sick. His sisters, Mary and Martha, sent for me. They said, "Lord, the one you love is sick." And I delayed. Yes, delayed. I let him die. And when I finally arrived, they both said to me, with tears and trembling voices, "If you had been here, he wouldn't have died." They were right. I could have come sooner. I could have healed him. But what they didn't see, what I want to show you, is that sometimes I wait, not because I'm ignoring you, but because I'm preparing a deeper glory. I didn't just want to heal Lazarus. I wanted to resurrect him. And resurrection takes more than medicine. It takes death. It takes silence. It takes trust. That's what I'm building in you right now. Maybe something in your life died while you were still believing. Maybe it was a dream, a relationship, a version of your life you were sure I had promised. And now, like Mary and Martha, you're standing in front of a tomb saying, "Lord, if you had been here." And I'm here now, not late, not absent, present, ready, able. But before I call forth what's hidden behind the stone, I want to restore your trust. Because if you don't trust my heart, you'll misinterpret my silence. You'll think delay is abandonment. You'll believe closed doors are rejection. You'll assume pain means punishment. But child, none of that is true. I discipline because I love. I wait because I'm wise. I allow loss because I'm leading you to something eternal. That doesn't make it easy, but it makes it worth it. There's a story I want you to remember, one many overlook. After my resurrection, I appeared to 2 disciples on the road to Emmaus. They didn't recognize me at first. Their eyes were filled with grief. Their hearts were heavy with confusion. And they said something you've probably said in your own way. "We had hoped." 3 words, "we had hoped." That's what so much broken trust sounds like, doesn't it? I had hoped they would stay. I had hoped the diagnosis would be different. I had hoped the answer would come. I walked with them. I didn't correct them immediately. I let them speak their sorrow. I listened to their disappointment. And then I opened the scriptures. I reminded them of the bigger picture. I sat at their table. And when they finally recognized me, their hearts burned again. That's what I want to do for you. I want to walk with you through the road of "we had hoped" until you find the fire again, until the numbness lifts, until your spirit dares to believe again. But to do that, you have to let me near. You have to open your heart again. That's not easy after trust has been broken. But I'm not them. I'm not the one who left. I'm not the one who lied. I'm not the one who changed. I'm still who I said I am, and I still choose you, even with the questions, even with the fears, even with the broken pieces, especially with the broken pieces. I don't need your perfect trust, I just need your honest heart. You can say, Jesus, I want to trust you again, but I'm scared. And I will answer, that's enough for today. Let's walk together. I'll carry what you can't. Because trust grows not in declarations, but in relationship. Let me remind you of something. You trusted me once, even when you didn't know how it would all turn out. And if I was faithful then, won't I be faithful now? Let's take a breath together. Close your eyes, if you can. Place your hand over your heart. Feel that? That's not just your pulse. It's proof that you're still alive for a reason, that something in you hasn't given up, that trust, though bruised, isn't dead. So say this with me now. If you're ready, even with a whisper, Jesus, I open my heart to you again. Heal my trust. Help me believe again. And if that prayer felt like breath after holding it in too long, write it in the comments. Write it for yourself. Write it as a marker, a holy moment where your spirit stood up again. Because I'm rebuilding your foundation, not on emotion, not on circumstances, but on me. And I do not change. You will walk again. You will believe again. And not just in me, but in the future I have for you. There's someone watching this who thought they'd never trust anyone again. But today, you felt something softening. That's me. There's someone who walked away from faith, not because you stopped loving me, but because you couldn't reconcile what happened. Today, I'm whispering, come back. I haven't changed my mind about you. And there's someone who never really knew how to trust me to begin with. You've known religion, rules, guilt, but not relationship. Let me be the first to say I didn't come for religion. I came for you, for your heart, your real, unfiltered, messy, beautiful heart, and I will carry it with care. So let trust begin again, not as pressure, but as peace. Not as a demand, but as an invitation. I'm still the God who parts seas, who walks on water, who feeds multitudes, who calms storms. And if I did it then, I can do it for you now. But first, let me heal your trust. That's the key I give you today. And in the next part, we'll go even deeper, because when trust is restored, something powerful begins to awaken. Vision. Not just belief that I exist, but clarity on what I've called you to do. We'll unlock that together in part 9, but for now, breathe again, hope again, and let me hold your trust. Key 9. When you see through my eyes, you step into your calling. You've spent so much of your life asking, what am I supposed to do? Why am I here? Sometimes those questions were whispered at night when the world grew quiet and your soul began to ache. Other times they burst out during storms, moments of confusion, transitions, pain, or sudden change. And the silence that followed felt heavy, like I was hiding your purpose behind a curtain you couldn't move. But I wasn't hiding anything from you. I was preparing your heart to see, because purpose without vision is pressure, but vision that flows from my heart, it brings peace, direction, and joy. Let me speak to that now. You were not an accident. You are not adrift. You have a calling, and I am ready to reveal it, not all at once, but step by step, as trust deepens between us. You see, divine vision doesn't begin with a 5-year plan. It begins with my gaze. When you begin to see your life, your pain, your gifting, and even your story through my eyes, everything changes. You begin to notice things you missed before. The way your compassion for the broken isn't random. The way your struggles weren't punishment, but preparation. The way your questions are actually doorways to deeper intimacy. Let me take you to a moment that changed everything for a man named Isaiah. He was standing in the temple, caught between what was and what would be, when he saw a vision of me, high and lifted up, glory surrounding me, the train of my robe filling the temple. He fell to his knees and cried out, "Woe is me! I am undone." But I didn't leave him there. I touched his lips. I purified his soul. And then I asked, "Whom shall I send? Who will go for us?" And Isaiah answered, "Here am I. Send me." That is what divine vision does. It humbles first, but then it ignites. It helps you see past yourself and into something eternal. And that's what I want to give you now. Not just a career path, not just a dream, but vision that aligns your heart with heaven. Because the truth is, you've already been walking in pieces of your calling. You've just been too tired or too distracted to see it clearly. Every time you encouraged someone while you were hurting, every time you chose forgiveness when you had the right to be bitter, every time you opened your Bible when nothing made sense, you were walking in vision. Because your purpose is not just what you do, it's who you become in my presence. You may say, "But I've messed up too much." No, child. Nothing disqualifies you when your heart returns to me. Moses ran and I called him back. David sinned and I restored his throne. Peter denied me 3 times, and I still chose him to feed my sheep. You may be carrying false beliefs about yourself, lies like, "I'm too late. I missed it. I'm not holy enough." Let me erase those now, because the calling I have placed inside you was written before time began, and even your detours have been woven into its design. Yes, even those moments, the ones you don't talk about, the ones you try to forget, I see them, I redeemed them, and I will use them. That's vision. Not ignoring the past, but letting me rewrite it. There's someone reading this right now who feels lost in a fog. You've tried to serve. You've tried to be faithful, but life feels like a blur. You're waiting for clarity, and I say to you, clarity comes through proximity. Come closer, stay longer in my word, sit in the quiet. Let my spirit whisper what noise has drowned out. Don't rush the process. I speak in stillness. I lead with gentleness, and yes, I will begin to show you what's next. But not to overwhelm you, to prepare you. There's a field I've been plowing in your heart, and now seeds are ready to be sown. You may not know the full picture, but if you take the next small step, I will meet you there. So let's speak this now together. Jesus, open my eyes. Let me see my life through your eyes. Give me vision that aligns with your purpose. If that prayer felt like a door opening in your spirit, write it in the comments. Let it be your yes. Let it be your moment of clarity. Even if it begins with a whisper, I will guide you. Like a shepherd who knows every rock and valley on the path, I will anoint you. Not just for tasks, but for transformation. Because what I'm calling you to do is not about performance. It's about presence. It's not about titles. It's about testimony. And it's not about rushing ahead. It's about walking with me. Child, if you stay close, you'll begin to see, not just with your eyes, but with your spirit. And soon, vision will turn into steps. Steps will turn into impact, and impact will become legacy. But first, let me wash your eyes again. Let me clear the film of comparison, fear, and doubt. You don't need to be like anyone else. You just need to be fully mine. That's where purpose is born. That's where clarity begins. That's where vision ignites. You are called, you are chosen, you are seen, and you are ready. So stay close, because in the next part, I'm going to show you how to walk in boldness. Not arrogance, not fear, but spiritual confidence rooted in who I say you are. This is more than a journey, it's a commissioning. You're stepping into something sacred now. Key 10, confidence flows from knowing who you are. And whose you are, I see how often you hesitate. You feel something stir inside, a word to speak, a dream to pursue, a step of faith to take. And just when you're about to move, something grabs hold of your heart. Doubt, fear. That small voice that whispers, "Who do you think you are?" And you pause, you shrink, You second guess. You retreat into the shadows of what others have said about you. Or worse, what you have said about yourself. But I didn't create you to live small. I didn't design your soul to fold under pressure or fear. I formed you for boldness, not the kind that boasts, not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that walks in quiet power, power rooted in the unshakable truth of who I say you are. So hear me now, child, with the authority of heaven in every word. You are mine, you are chosen, you are called, you are equipped. You are not less than, you are not invisible, you are not late. The world tries to label you, your past tries to limit you. But my voice, the one that spoke stars into being, calls you beloved. You may not feel confident, you may have lost battles, you may still be healing, but confidence in my kingdom isn't about how loud you are, it's about how rooted you are. Let me take you to a moment when someone doubted. His name was Gideon. When I first spoke to him, he was hiding in a wine press, threshing wheat in fear of his enemies. He didn't look like a warrior. He didn't feel like a leader. But I didn't call him based on what he felt. I called him based on what I saw. The Lord is with you, mighty warrior. Those were my words. Gideon argued, of course. He said he was the least of his tribe, the smallest in his family. But I didn't change my mind, because your identity isn't built on your resume. It's built on my revelation. And if I called Gideon a warrior while he was still hiding, if I called Peter a rock while he was still unstable, if I called David a king while he was still tending sheep, then hear me now. I can call you confident even while your knees still shake. Because confidence isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to believe my voice above all others. Let me remind you of something else. Before Jesus began his public ministry, before he performed miracles, before he cast out demons, before he walked on water, I said something. At his baptism, the heavens opened, and I declared, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." That was before the wilderness, before the tests, before the victories, because identity always precedes assignment. And I say the same to you now. You are my beloved, not when you get it all right. Not after you prove yourself, right now, as you are. Confidence grows in that soil, not in striving, but in staying, not in comparison, but in communion. Let me ask you a question. What would you attempt if you truly believed I was backing you? What would you say if you trusted that I would give you the words? Where would you go if you knew you carried my presence? That's not fantasy, that's truth, because I don't send you empty, I send you full of my spirit, my authority, my promises. There's someone watching this who has been afraid to step into what I've called you to. You keep waiting for someone else to validate it. You keep hoping for a sign, a confirmation, a push. Here it is. I'm calling you. And I'm not calling the version of you that's fixed everything. I'm calling the one who's still figuring it out, because I delight in using the humble. I empower the uncertain. I anoint the willing. Confidence in me looks like this. Showing up, even when your voice shakes. Saying yes before you see how. Walking forward when you don't feel ready, because you trust I'm ready, and I am. So say this with me now. Jesus, I choose to believe what you say about me. I step into your calling with confidence, not in myself, but in you. And if that feels like something real just cracked open in you, write it in the comments. Not because you feel brave, but because you're choosing to become brave. Because the moment you align your identity with my truth, heaven begins to move. You're not an imposter, you're an ambassador. You're not pretending, you're positioning. You're not a fraud, you're a vessel. And I will fill you, I will walk with you, I will speak through you. Because your confidence doesn't come from applause or performance, it comes from proximity. Stay close to me, And I'll show you how to walk with quiet authority, humble strength, and relentless peace. That's the kind of confidence hell can't counterfeit. That's the kind of confidence the world can't take. That's the kind of confidence that changes generations. And that's the key I place in your hands today. But we're not done, because confidence in calling must be matched by wisdom in battle. In the next part, I'll teach you how to discern between open doors and disguised traps. How to walk not just boldly, but wisely. So stay close. The next key will sharpen your spirit in ways you've never known. Key 11, discernment protects your destiny. Not every open door is from me. You've prayed for open doors. You've asked me to make a way, and I love your faith. But now, I want to teach you something deeper. Something that will guard your heart and protect the calling I've placed within you. Because not every open door is a blessing, and not every closed one is rejection. Some doors are traps. Some opportunities shine with promise, but carry poison beneath the surface. And some paths are paved with applause, but lead far from my presence. This is why you need discernment. Discernment is not suspicion. It's not paranoia. It's not guessing based on fear. It's spiritual clarity, the ability to see things not as they appear, but as I reveal. Discernment is how you protect your destiny from distractions disguised as divine. It's how you avoid stepping into relationships, jobs, conversations, or commitments that look good but slowly drain your peace. Let me show you how important this is. I want you to remember a moment early in my ministry. I had just been baptized. The heavens had opened. The Spirit had descended like a dove. My Father had spoken, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." And immediately after that moment of glory, I was led into the wilderness. Not by the enemy, by the Spirit. Because even your highest spiritual moments must be tested. And in that wilderness, the enemy came. He didn't bring fear. He brought scripture. He didn't mock me. He quoted me. He tried to use truth to twist trust. That's what deception does, and it doesn't always come in obvious rebellion. It comes wrapped in religion. That's why you need discernment, not just information. You can know the word and still be seduced by the wrong voice if your ears aren't tuned to me. The enemy offered me what already belonged to me, kingdoms, authority, glory, but without the cross. He wanted me to shortcut the process, to claim the crown without the cost. That's the same trap he sets for you. Take the easier path. Settle for what's quick. Follow what feels good. But every shortcut has a shadow, and what looks like a blessing outside of my will always become a burden. You may be facing decisions right now. A relationship that looks right but lacks peace. An opportunity that brings attention but drains your spirit. A path that everyone applauds but leaves you dry on the inside. Let me speak this over you with clarity. If it costs you your peace, your purpose, or your purity, it's not from me. Discernment is your protection. And it begins with this prayer. Jesus, show me what's real, not what looks good, but what is true in you. Say it now if you're ready. Because when you give me access to your decisions, I begin to rearrange what doesn't belong. I close doors not to punish you, but to protect you. I stir discomfort where compromise hides. I remove people who would drain the life out of your calling. And yes, sometimes that hurts. Sometimes it feels like loss, but later, you'll see it was mercy. Let me show you another story. There was a man named Samson, anointed from birth, strong, set apart, destined. But he lacked one thing, discernment. He was led by his eyes, not his spirit. He chased what looked good, not what was godly. And though he was chosen, he was careless. He trusted the wrong people. He played with temptation. He ignored my voice. And slowly, almost invisibly, his strength was drained. until the moment came when he tried to rise like before, and the power was gone. Not because I stopped loving him, but because he stopped listening. And child, I say this with urgency. Do not confuse my patience with my permission. I've given you time to reconsider. I've sent warnings through people, through dreams, through a lack of peace. And if you keep pushing past those signs, you will step into battles I never meant you to fight. That's why I'm calling you now to slow down, to pause before you decide, to seek me before you say yes, because I know what's ahead, and I want you to walk in authority, not regret. There was another man, Solomon, wise, favored, wealthy. But over time, he surrounded himself with foreign wives, foreign idols, foreign influences, and what began in glory ended in confusion. Not because he didn't know me, but because he didn't guard what I gave him. Discernment isn't just for decisions, it's for preservation. It protects your heart from being slowly pulled away from me by little compromises. That's how the enemy works. He doesn't always bring disaster. He brings distractions. He won't tell you to reject me. He'll just try to keep you too busy to notice you've drifted. So how do you grow in discernment? By abiding in me, not rushing ahead, not asking me to bless what you've already decided, but waiting, listening, sensing. If something seems right but feels off, don't ignore that. That hesitation in your spirit may be me speaking. I rarely shout, I nudge, I whisper, I speak through peace, or the lack of it. So don't silence that voice. Don't override it with logic or pressure or popularity. Trust it, cultivate it, ask for more of it. Here's how. Start by spending more time with me, not just reading my word for knowledge, but listening for alignment. Ask me before you act. Wait when you're unsure. Talk less, pray more. Surround yourself with wise counsel. Remove the noise that clouds your spirit. And remember, if it's from me, it won't require you to compromise who you are in me. The right door won't make you anxious. The right person won't pull you from your purpose. The right path won't contradict my word. Let me say this to your heart now. You don't need to be afraid of making the wrong decision. If you're walking close to me, I'll lead you, even when the path isn't clear. I'm not a god of confusion. I'm not trying to trick you. I'm trying to grow you into someone who walks with eyes wide open and heart fully surrendered. So here is the prayer I want you to speak today. Jesus, sharpen my spirit. Give me discernment. Show me the difference between what is good and what is from you. If that resonated in you, write it in the comments. Make it your declaration. Make it your alignment, because when your spirit begins to discern, you won't fall for counterfeits anymore. You won't settle for almost. You won't follow popularity, you'll follow presence. And presence never leads you into ruin. Discernment may not always feel exciting, but it will always lead to peace. That's the key I give you today. The key to spiritual clarity, the key to preserved purpose, the key to wisdom beyond your years, because the next level of your life requires a clearer spirit, and I'm clearing it now. But this isn't just about protecting your destiny, it's about activating the gifts I've placed in you. In the next part, I'll reveal how to walk in the supernatural gifts of the Spirit, not just as experiences, but as tools to build, to heal, to serve. So stay close. The next key will awaken something powerful within you. Key 12, the gifts of the Spirit are not for display, they are for transformation. You've felt it, haven't you? That stirring inside. Moments when a thought came to your heart and you knew, that wasn't mine. Moments when you saw something before it happened, when you prayed for someone and felt fire in your chest, when a word left your lips that pierced straight through someone else's pain. You wondered, was that you, Lord? Yes, that was me. I have placed gifts within you, not to elevate you, but to empower you, not for performance, not for show, but for love, for healing, for building, for restoring what the world has broken. Because the gifts of the Spirit are not signs of spiritual superiority. They are tools in the hands of surrendered souls. Let me show you what that means. When I walked this earth, I was led by the Spirit in every word, every healing, every movement. Not one miracle was for spectacle. Each one revealed the Father's heart. When I opened blind eyes, it wasn't to impress, it was to restore dignity. When I cast out demons, it wasn't for drama, it was to free those who had been bound for too long. When I multiplied bread, it wasn't to prove power, it was because I saw the hunger. This is the heart behind the gifts I give to you, not to make you look powerful, but to make others feel seen, to make the kingdom visible on earth, because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs my presence, and you are my vessel. Let's talk about those gifts. The gift of wisdom, when my Spirit gives you understanding beyond what your mind could know. The gift of knowledge, when you suddenly become aware of something hidden, so you can speak truth with love. The gift of prophecy, when you release words from my heart, not to control, but to comfort and call forth destiny. The gift of healing, when you lay your hands in faith and I move in power. The gift of miracles, when heaven breaks into earth and I shift what no one else could touch. The gift of tongues, when your Spirit speaks mysteries to me that bypass your limitations. The gift of interpretation, when understanding follows what seemed impossible to explain. The gift of discernment, when you see what's behind the surface and protect what's holy from what deceives. And then the gifts of helps, administration, mercy, teaching, encouragement, leadership. Each one with purpose. Each one with design. Each one a reflection of me. But here is where many go wrong. They seek the gift and forget the giver. They want the power, but not the intimacy. They chase the manifestation, but miss the moment with me. And I say this now with tenderness and truth. My gifts flow best through hearts that are clean, humble, and surrendered. Not perfect, but postured. Not proud, but available. You may say, Lord, I don't know what my gifts are. That's okay. You don't find your gifts through striving, you discover them through obedience. When you follow my leading, to pray, to serve, to speak, to love, you will begin to notice what flows easily, what stirs fire, what brings fruit. That's where your gifts live, and they grow as you use them, not on platforms, in kitchens, in hospitals, in prayer rooms, in quiet conversations. You don't need a microphone to move in power. You need surrender. You need sensitivity. You need love. Because love is the only atmosphere where my gifts operate properly. Without love, prophecy is noise. Without love, miracles are distraction. Without love, tongues are empty sound. That's why I poured out my Spirit after I poured out my life. Because the gifts are not disconnected from the cross. They carry the same DNA, self-giving love. You may be hungry for more power, more fire, more movement. That's good. But let your hunger be holy. Don't seek the gift to prove anything. Seek it to serve, and I will pour out more than you imagined. But don't despise small beginnings. If I give you a word for one person, speak it. If I nudge you to pray for healing, do it. If I stir you to weep with someone, don't hold back. Because I use the willing, not the qualified. And when you move in faith, even trembling, I move through you. Let me remind you of a woman named Anna. She was a prophet, not famous, not platformed. But she stayed in the temple praying, fasting, waiting. And when I, as a baby, was brought in, she recognized me. That's the fruit of spiritual gifts rooted in devotion. You see me where others are distracted. You recognize my move. You align with my will. You become my vessel. So let's make this real right now. Say this with me. Jesus, I surrender to your Spirit. Use every gift you've placed in me for your glory and to love others well. If that felt like a sacred unlocking, write it in the comments. Let it be a step of faith. Let it be a public yes. Let it be the beginning of something deeper. Because the gifts I've given you are not ornaments, they are instruments. And as you stay close to me, I'll teach you to use them with grace, power, and love. There is someone reading this who feels disqualified. Maybe you were once used mightily, and then you fell. Listen to me. I restore, I rebuild, I re-anoint. Return to me, and the oil will flow again. There's someone who's been scared, afraid of spiritual gifts because of what you've seen misused. I understand. But don't let the counterfeit make you afraid of the real. I want to teach you myself, through my word, through my spirit, through safe community. Let me guide you. You were made to walk in the Spirit and not just believe in Him. You were made to carry my presence, to bring my light into darkness, to declare my truth with love, to set captives free, not by your strength, but by my Spirit. And now, it's time to step forward, because the next part of your journey will require activation. And in the next section, I will show you how to guard what I've placed in you, how to protect your fire from burnout, and keep your soul aligned when pressure rises. Stay with me. You're walking in something holy now. Key 13. Guarding your fire. How to protect your spiritual flame from burnout. You felt it before. The fire. It may have come in a quiet room, when tears ran without words, or during worship, when my presence wrapped around your spirit like a warm wind, or perhaps after you obeyed, even trembling, and saw me move through you in ways that surprised even yourself. That wasn't imagination. That was fire, holy fire, not emotional hype, not surface passion, but my spirit burning inside of you, awakening purpose, courage, and deep conviction. And yet, if you're honest, that fire doesn't always feel as strong now. You've gone through some things, loss, delay, disappointments that hit harder than expected. You kept showing up, but sometimes the flame felt like it flickered low. You've wondered, am I still burning? Is the fire still there? Yes, it's still there. But now, I want to teach you how to guard it. Because fire doesn't just stay alive because it was once lit. Fire stays alive because it is tended. Let me show you something you may have overlooked. In the Old Testament, I gave my people instructions about the altar. The fire that burned there, the flame that consumed offerings, that marked my presence. It wasn't a one-time event. It was sustained. Leviticus 6:13 says, "The fire must be kept burning on the altar continuously, it must not go out." Why? Because it was the symbol of my presence, of devotion, of a people who remained open to me. And today, I say the same to you. Keep the fire burning. Don't let distraction extinguish what I started. Don't let routine replace relationship. Don't let disappointment dampen what is still holy. But how? How do you protect the fire when life gets heavy? Let me show you. You guard your fire with intimacy, not just activity. Spiritual motion means nothing without deep communion. Yes, serve. Yes, speak. Yes, lead. But never let your public obedience outpace your private connection. Because if you try to burn in front of others without burning before me, you will run dry. And dryness leads to danger. Elijah, my prophet, called down fire from heaven. He stood boldly before kings, but shortly after he ran into a cave, afraid and exhausted. Why? Because fire on the outside means nothing if you're not being fed on the inside. And that's where many of my children begin to fade. They give and give and give, but stop receiving. They pour out, but don't sit still long enough to be filled again. Don't let that be you. Come back to me, not for ministry, not for revelation, but for relationship. Come just to sit, just to rest, just to breathe, and know that you are loved apart from what you do. Because fire doesn't need performance, it needs presence. You also guard your fire with boundaries. Yes, boundaries are spiritual. You can't say yes to everyone and still burn for me. You weren't created to carry every burden. You weren't designed to run without rest. Even I, when I walked the earth, withdrew. I left the crowds. I climbed mountains to pray. I said no, even to good things, because my fuel came from the Father. Some of you are tired not because you're doing wrong, but because you're doing too much without me. Your schedule is full, but your spirit is starving, and I'm not angry about that. I'm inviting you to slow down, to return, to remember what it felt like to just love me with no pressure. You guard your fire with truth. Don't let lies linger in your mind. Lies like, I'm not doing enough. God must be disappointed in me. I missed my moment. Those are not from me. They are smoke sent to suffocate your flame. Replace them with my words. I am with you. You are mine. You are still called. My truth is your oxygen. Inhale it daily. Breathe it when you feel weary. Declare it when everything feels dry. Even a whispered truth can spark a new flame. And finally, you guard your fire with community. Yes, you need others. Even firewood burns better together. You weren't meant to burn alone. Isolation dims what intimacy wants to feed. There are people I've placed in your life to stir your fire, to remind you who you are, to pray when your strength feels small, to carry your mat when your faith grows faint. Don't retreat when you feel low. Lean in. Let someone see your tiredness. Let someone speak over your ashes. Because sometimes the ember you thought was gone just needs a little wind. Let's pause now. Let me breathe into your soul again. You don't need music. You don't need hype. You just need space. Say this with me. Jesus, breathe on my fire again. Teach me to tend it. I don't want to burn out. I want to burn deeply, purely, continually for you. If that felt like your spirit exhaled, if something within you started to stir again, write those words in the comments, not as a ritual, as an agreement. Let it mark the moment your flame began to rise again. I have not forgotten you. I have not replaced you. I am rekindling what was once vibrant, not just for your sake, but for the lives you will touch. You're not finished. You're being refined, because a pure flame burns hotter than a loud one, and the days ahead will require fire. Not the kind that impresses, the kind that sustains. So build the altar. Place your heart on it again, and let my spirit burn. Because the next key I want to place in your hands will take this flame and aim it outward. We've tended the fire within. But now, it's time to talk about what it means to be a light in darkness, to carry this flame into places others fear to go. In part 14, I'll reveal the call to spiritual influence, how to lead with light, not noise, and how to shift atmospheres by simply being fully alive in me. So stay close. Your fire is rising again. Key 14, you were born to shine. Influence begins with presence, not performance. You've wondered before, can I really make a difference? You've looked around at the noise, the darkness, the chaos, and deep inside something whispered, what can I do? I'm just one person. But child, hear me now. You were never just anything. You are light. You are salt. You are my ambassador on earth. Not because you're flawless, not because you've achieved some spiritual level, but because I dwell in you, and when I live in someone, darkness has no choice but to retreat. You may not feel like a leader. You may not stand behind microphones or walk into rooms filled with applause, but you carry something far greater. You carry my presence. And when my presence fills a life, that life becomes a lamp. It illuminates rooms. It shifts conversations. It warms hearts that were cold. It reveals things that were hidden. Let me tell you something simple but sacred. You influence people every day, just by being mine. When you choose gentleness in a world built on anger, when you forgive even when it costs your pride, when you serve without being seen, when you speak truth in love, not to win an argument, but to set someone free. That is spiritual influence. That is kingdom leadership. It's not about being louder. It's about being faithful. Let me show you something from my word. There was a man possessed by demons. He lived in tombs, isolated, feared, forgotten. No one could help him until I came. I crossed a stormy sea just to reach him. I spoke, and chains broke. Darkness fled. He sat at my feet, clothed and in his right mind. And what did he ask? Let me come with you. But I said no. Go home. Tell them how much the Lord has done for you. Why? Because influence doesn't always mean going somewhere new. Sometimes it means shining right where you are. He became a voice in his region, not with theology, but with testimony. And people saw the change, and many believed. Not because he preached, but because he burned. Let me ask you now, where have I placed you? That workplace, that family, that online space, that neighborhood. What if that's not random? What if I've been planting you, not to survive there, but to shine there? You don't have to force anything. You don't have to shout. You just have to stay filled. The overflow of my spirit in you is what changes atmospheres, not effort, presence. I want to remind you of Esther. She didn't ask for influence. She was hidden, orphaned, unseen. But I raised her in silence, and when the time came, her presence changed the fate of a nation. She didn't lead with noise. She led with courage. She led with timing. Some of you have been hidden for a while, unnoticed, but I've been building something in you. Because when I shine my light through someone, it's never premature. You may think, but I don't know what to say. Good. That means you'll listen. You may feel small. Good. That means you'll depend on me. You may fear rejection, but if they reject you, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting me, and I can handle that. You just keep shining. Here's what shining looks like. Being kind when it's easier to be cold. Praying for someone, even if it's silently. Encouraging without flattery. Listening without needing to fix. Living with integrity when no one's watching. You don't always need a pulpit. Your pulpit may be a coffee shop, a phone call, a hospital bed, a classroom, a broken conversation on a hard day. That's where real ministry happens. That's where your light burns. So I ask you this, will you let me shine through you, even when it's quiet, even when it's costly, even when it's unseen? Say this with me now. Jesus, use me. Shine through me. Let my life be a light that leads others to you. If that moved your heart, write it in the comments. That one sentence can be your flame, because I don't need your platform. I need your heart. There's someone reading this who feels like they have no influence. You've been faithful behind the scenes, and it feels like no one sees. But I do. And I say to you, your light has not gone unnoticed. It has reached farther than you know. There's someone who's been afraid to speak up, afraid your story is too messy to share. But I say, that mess became your miracle. That wound became your weapon. When you share it, chains will fall. Your voice is not noise, it's hope. The world is dark. But light doesn't need permission to shine, it just shines. That's you. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be present. And when you walk into a room filled with me, that room changes. Because I am light, and I live in you. So go. Go into this day, go into this world, not rushed, not fearful, but radiant. And in the next part, I'll show you what it means to finish well, not just to burn for a season, but to endure, to stay steady, to remain faithful, to carry the torch all the way home. Because legacy isn't just what you start, it's what you leave behind. So stay close, your light is only growing. Key 15, finish well. The legacy of a faithful life. You've come far, farther than you think. You may not see it yet, but every time you said yes to me, every quiet surrender, every act of obedience, every whispered prayer when no one else knew, you were building something eternal. And now, as we come to the end of this part of the journey, I want you to know, you are not just called to begin well, you are called to finish well. Not with burnout, not with regret, not with the weight of performance, but with joy, with peace, with a soul that's light because it trusted me every step of the way. You've received much throughout this journey, keys that have opened your spirit to new understanding, healing, clarity, and boldness. But the greatest fruit isn't just in what you've received, it's in what you'll now carry. Because this isn't the end, it's a beginning, a threshold, a moment where you step into the rest of your story, with me at the center. Let me tell you what it means to finish well. Finishing well isn't about perfection, it's about perseverance. It means choosing me again when the world pulls your attention. It means remaining faithful when it would be easier to disappear. It means trusting me when the spotlight fades and all that's left is silence, and still saying, I'm yours. That is strength, that is success in my kingdom, not numbers, not titles, not applause, but intimacy sustained. Let me take you to one of my servants, Paul. He faced more hardship than most. Shipwrecks, betrayals, prison, loneliness. He poured out his life, not from a place of ego, but from a place of devotion. And when his time came, he didn't cry out in fear. He said, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. That is the cry of a soul that burned with me until the end. That is what I want for you, not exhaustion from religion, but joy from relationship, not striving to be enough, but resting in the truth that you already are, because I am enough for you. Let's take a breath together right now. Inhale this moment. Feel it in your soul. Everything we've walked through, every key, every whisper, every promise has been me meeting you. You are not who you were when this journey began. You've been softened, strengthened, set apart. And now I invite you to walk forward. Not rushed, but steady. Not seeking greatness, but carrying my goodness. Let me remind you what you've become. You are a warrior with compassion, a servant with power, a voice with gentleness, a flame with purpose, and a soul marked by love. This world will try to distract you. It will offer shortcuts. It will tempt you to build in your own strength. But remember this, if I am your source, you will never run dry. Abide in me, let my word anchor you, let my spirit refresh you daily, let my presence be your reward. Because in the end, when your race is completed, you will see me face to face, and I will look into your eyes, not with condemnation, but with fire and joy, and I will say, well done, my good and faithful servant. You didn't give up. You didn't lose heart. You stayed with me. Welcome home. That day is real, that moment is coming, and every yes you give me today is shaping the eternity you'll walk in forever. So finish well, child, not with perfection, but with presence. Keep your eyes on me, keep your hands open, keep your heart clean, and know you are never alone. Let's say this together. Jesus, I want to finish well. Keep me close, keep me burning. Let my life bring you glory, from beginning to end. If that was your final yes in this journey, write it in the comments. Let heaven and earth witness your devotion. You are part of something holy now, something eternal. And even when this video ends, my voice continues, because I'm not done with you. Not now, not ever. There are more stories to live, more people to love, more places to carry my light, more days to walk with me, in trust, in power, in peace. So rise. Walk, shine, speak, love, and finish well, because I'm with you to the very end. If this journey touched your heart, leave a comment with one word that represents your commitment, like faith, light, finish, or trust. Let others know they're not walking alone. And if you're hungry for more, there are other words, other promises, other keys already waiting for you in the next message. Maybe it's already on your screen now, because the fire doesn't end here. It travels with you.